Okay, so everything should be going live. I will now do my prerequisite work of telling people I'm online. uh, hey, Sola, what's up? I am literally, that thumbnail is amazing. Hey, I got permission from a German to put it up. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with it. This is my version. My version of I have a German friend. You know why? Do you know why the title is what it is? So I'll tell you what why the title is. There's this video from ProZD from years ago where they're like, where he's like talking about clickbait. And in the video, he's like, you got to tickle their balls a little bit. You won't believe actor joins film. And then they're like, no, tickle it more. You won't believe. I don't know. I just thought that was an amazing title. I thought you couldn't top that. Okay, I've tweeted out the streams up. The streams up. Today's stream, by the way, I need you to tell me what the audio levels are. Don't just accept that it's quiet. Am I loud enough? That's really important. Do I sound like I'm doing what's called peaking? Like, is my audio just cutting out randomly? Tell me. This is really good for me to know. Okay. Thank you. Finally. I had to fix this the other day. It was so much work. This episode of today's show is the product of multiple weeks of reading, researching, and trying to make a bigger topic for this than it actually probably deserves. I am celebrating Christmas with family, so I am not doing a really long I'm celebrating Christmas with my partner, so I'm not doing a really long episode today. I'm gonna focus very much. It's peaking a bit. Okay, cool. I'm gonna focus very much on hitting some really core points. Some really core points in my opinion. I want to talk about them. I would love it if you would contribute. I think today's conversation is one that we can both have, which makes me very happy because I love having a conversation with you guys. It just won't be the longest, but it will be a good one. And I really want you to engage. So give me your best engagement head, best engagement face. That was the worst way to word that. Anyway, hey Waggle Muffin. I've always wanted to ask why your profile picture is that terrifying little gremlin thing, but you know what? I don't care. I'm just happy you're here. Okay. All right. I will rub my two broad brain cells for tonight. Thank you, Sola. That's all I need from you. If the stream is working everywhere, I've posted everything. I've done all the social media posting, so that's great. Permission to engage. I'm going bananas. Jesus. Anyway, so just a quick up, just so everyone knows where we are. People who are showing up know what we're talking about. Today's stream, we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking largely about like comic studies. We're going to be talking about like essentially who's studying comics, why are people studying comics, the correction, not that. Who's studying comics, how many people are studying comics, how big is the space, how is it affecting us as creators, how are we affecting them simultaneously, because we do affect them, and what do you call it? And I'm gonna be on for a while, so if you could probably just leave me on while I talk. Live your life, like maybe an hour. That's what I've got. Maybe an hour. So we're talking about what do you call it? Who's studying comics? How that's affecting us? What that means for us going forward, and how that's affecting how seriously we are taken in a lot of spaces. And these things are really valuable to talk about because I think it gives you a wider understanding of. I think it gives you a wider understanding of like the forces at play in the forces at play in our industry as to basically how seriously we're taken, how much we're paid, you know. And I want you to understand it from an academic standpoint because, you know, there's all the economic things that make sense, but the academic point is still pretty important, annoyingly. Yeah, I hope that made sense because, like, my brain, I've been revising, like I'm revising for an exam today. So, like, you know, just like, yeah, I'm just, sorry, my brain is just kind of cooked and only knows how to output, like the information I need. Okay, cool. I have posted everything I needed to do. Posted everything I wanted to do. Cool. My brain is spaghetti. You know, today while I was reading all this stuff, I was listening to On Top of Spaghetti by the Swedish Chef. I'm not gonna lie, that's a banger of a song. I love that that's something I can say out loud. Anyway, on top of spaghetti. All right. If you want me to sing on top of spaghetti, you gotta become a patron. I'll sing it, I promise. Okay, let us get ourselves together. Let us get ourselves together. What episode is it? 19? 19. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Webcomics Hubcast. I am your host, Nan. I am tired. I mean, I feel like I've done that intro before, but whatever, I'll do it again. Today's episode is called Germany's Problems with Comics. If you're watching the live stream and there's an episode right now, it's episode 20? No, sorry, it's episode 20. Shit. This episode is called Germany's Problem with Comics, wherein I'm going to be using Germany as a stand-in to discuss the wider academic viewpoint of comics as a whole, and how that is kind of trickling down into how that kind of affects us as to how seriously we're taken and what that kind of means for the industry at large, in terms of, well, just really, frankly, just how seriously we're taken. Like I'm sorry, I don't have like a second way of phrasing that, but really, all of this is about how seriously we are taken, which might seem very trivial, you know, like don't get taken seriously, who cares? But I think it's pretty important, and I say that because it's 2022 right now, so about in like the late 90s, or so, mid 90s to late 90s, game design began becoming a degree in universities, thing that people spend their time studying, writing papers on, and were like treated as individual researchers of just that topic. And when that started was around the time when the massive economic boom in the game industry came in, because basically, if an academic institution is studying a degree, it means that it is business-wise valuable enough to understand. Like, it has become economically viable for that, or at least the university or academic institution thinks that it could become economically viable for them to essentially spend their time, money, and people on it to understand the nooks and crannies, the inner working of the space, right? And we're using Germany as like a jumping off point for that to talk about this wider topic, in part because Germany is really, really useful for it because they have a lot of research written about it. And in part because honestly, it was just the first angle I had. It was just the first angle I had. If you're wondering what today's background photo is, it is the flag of Bavaria. There is no reason for this. Bavaria isn't even like a part of this story. I needed a flag of a German place that wasn't Germany because I needed one for the backdrop. Fuck off. Anyway, did I swear in the first 30 seconds of the video? Damn. Bavaria doesn't exist. I thought Bavaria was like a city. I wrote flags of Germany online and they were like flag of Bavaria, flag of Berlin. You can see that I didn't do any geography studying. I was very much not in tune with the geography. Ich bin ein Berliner. I'm a delicious Berlin pastry and also a person from Berlin. Didn't even know Prussia doesn't exist. No, I knew Prussia didn't exist. Go away. Why is my chat bullying me? Anyway, so I think a good jumping off point will be to talk about what I read for this. So I read a few books, specific, and they're gonna have really boring titles, but yeah, just let it go. I'm going to talk about the comic I read, the piece I read from Colloquia Germanica, which is, I believe, an American book studying German things, and in it there's a story from there's a paper, an article actually, from Brett Sterling of the University of University of Arkansas. I made a joke in my head that he was the University of Arkansas, remember it? And I just said Kansas. University of Arkansas. And his article is called Introduction, the Intersection of Comic Studies and German Studies, in which he basically spends a lot of his time talking about the crossover between like comic studies and the journal's focus, which is the study of German culture. I also proceeded to read a lot of Deutschland websites, like a lot of .de government websites and university websites, about like freaking I love university websites about like studying, like just like what degrees you could do in Germany. I read Comics Studies in Germany, Where It's At and Where It Might Be Heading by Daniel Stein. I of course reread Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. And where's that book? Oh my God, have I lost it? Yes, and I spent a lot of time reading a book I bought specifically for this research topic. It's called Comics as a Nexus of Cultures, Essays on the Interplay of Media, Disciplines, and International Perspectives. What matters I'm trying to get here is I've used some sources. That's my point. I've looked at a bunch of sources to make my arguments, to understand, to make sure that the things I'm talking about have some kind of something, right? And to talk about this, I didn't only just read about German comics. I read quite widely about other comics. I also just read comics from other places so that I could make my argument. Let's start with my first point. I want to talk initially about comics as they're seen in the general world. Comics in general are seen by the average person, in my opinion, under a very specific light. They're seen very much as leisure, fun things with little to no depth. There's always going to be a mouse. There's always going to be an Understanding Comics. There's always going to be a Miracle Man, a Deadpool, and a Superman that like stands out and does something unusual, but the industry at large is not taken seriously. Much like the gaming industry is not taken like seriously. And I don't mean seriously as in like people don't respect it. I mean seriously as in like people don't see the contents that it can cover as being more than frivolous little games. It's very I think my source for this point is The Big Bang Theory, the most popular show in America and in quite a lot of the world. right? That show made most of its money through just making the joke that comics are about superheroes occasionally fighting. And for a lot of people, that's kind of like what they see. They see comics. When you talk, in fact, to the extent of when I first told my partner about comics and about what I was doing, they very much talked a lot about like, oh, is it like superhero stuff? Because like that's the angle they came from. It's not that they didn't know other things existed, but that's just the most popular angle. I think in the general world, comics are just seen as that. Like these little things these little things that kids read, largely centering around superhero stories, and very few people think of them under the broader lens of they could cover tons of different unusual topics. Something that is becoming, of course, more prevalent for people to notice in the age of the webcomic. In the academic world, comics aren't seen as trivially. I believe that from what I've understood, comics are seen as like serious, meaningful pieces of media because every piece of media is seen as serious, meaningful pieces of media, according to academics. Academics take every piece of media seriously because every piece of media is just a person's way of screaming into the void. So even if they don't take you seriously, they don't think your content is like meaningful or regularly like evocative, academics see comics as at least meaningful discussion, a meaningful discussion platform. Hey Crow, we're just talking about comics. Trust me, everything is still unveiling, so you'll be fine. You'll catch up. So like academics see comics as like a very serious medium of expression. Inky is scared in chat says, I think the whole comics is just superheroes is a very American-centric views. There are tons of comics in France, Italy, and the ever-classic Japan that are popular in a way broader set of genres. Yeah, you are correct. That is a very American-centric view, but the unfortunate reality of the world that we live in is that we are, as a general population, outside of like Asia, we're very American-centric as like a community. Because American media is a large part of our lives, whether we want it to be or not. I'm going to talk about European comics today, because that's what it's about. And I'm going to talk about BDs and other Franco-Belgian comics and British comics, which are in no way the same as American ones. But it's good to understand the base level that non-involved people have. Like your mom and dad, your friends that don't really know what comics are, beyond the few things that they see movies about, they will think of them through that American-centric lens, because that American-centric lens is simple, popular, and like has been disseminated for the last like 40 years. Like it's not gonna not be part of them. There's this tale that American comics are the child of Penny Dreadful's simple short stories for working class people. It's supposed to be kept simple and give a character that working class people can easily project onto. Example like Captain America. You are totally right. I think they are. I think you are totally. I think you are totally on. I'm bored with where you're at. Using that idea of essentially them being the extension of Penny Dreadfuls is very valuable. A Penny Dreadful, for people who don't know, somebody else we talk about HBO Max, the animation industry. I could talk about them some other time. Not now. Anyway, if you don't know what a Penny Dreadful comic is, it's essentially, quite literally, a cheap comic, if I remember correctly. They're very cheap artistic pieces that were sold to working class people just to like have a laugh or see something interesting, or just for them to like, it was part of their entertainment. Remember, like, we live in the now, and back then, when you were broke as hell, you just needed to get something cheap and easy to read. Yeah, they cost literally a penny, right? It cost literally a penny, and they were basically just serialized literature that was garbo. Like, it's where you'd get stuff like Night of the Road. If you look that up, Night of the Road, Black Bess, you see like a very simple Penny Dreadful. Or like Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd, I believe, was was a series of penny dreadfuls. Like, that's what they were. Just really shit, cheap, usually single illustration comics. That's what penny dreadfuls were. And like, that's most likely where American comics get their base from. But that's also what makes them so popular, because they're cheap, kind of shit, and usually talk to the working class. They get very popular. Anyway, so like, I'm glad, I just wanted to make sure I understood that we were all on the same page as to why I was using the American framing, the US comic-centric idea as the framing of the average person who cares about comics. And the academics, though, do think a lot more, like Inky and Percy in chat, who are talking about comics from the perspective of the European outlook, or just the fact that like, it's not all superheroes and shit blowing up. And I think that's a really valuable point to bring in. The thing is, though, while academics as a whole, as a holistic group, take comics seriously, right? They've not always, like, it's a combination of people still see, a lot of people in those spaces still see them as trivial, and they're still largely seen in terms of like a top-down view of the academic space as trivial enough that like, they're not given their own topic. And I said it at the beginning. When a subject is given its own academic overpinning subject, like game design, or like film studies, or like art studies and art history, right? That's like an indicator of not only an indicator of it being taken seriously, and also an indicator of it being economically viable to care about those things. But comics, partially because, you know, we all broke out here, and partially because not really taking it seriously in terms of a top-down view of the entire academic space, has not been given that topic, not been given that viewpoint, not viewpoint, that like cordoning off from other subjects. Am I right to assume that comics still aren't seen as important and valid expressions of art? No, people do see them as valid expressions of art. Them being seen as valid and them being seen as meaningful are two different things. Like, if I draw a comic crying about the fact that My Little Pony ended terribly and it makes me sad, it's a valid expression of my emotions and people genuinely get it. It's a valid expression of art. But like, it's not a meaningful thing. It has no impact socially as far as people are concerned, and it has no impact on most people who will see it. It does not mean anything, and it doesn't seem to do anything new, is what I mean by like the difference between meaningful and like valid, right? Like in academics, comics are valid. In academics, comics are not meaningful. As such, it's led to an environment, essentially, where most people who are studying comics don't study comics under the title comic studies. In fact, my favorite thing from Daniel Stein, who writes about comic studies in Germany, is he writes this: whether comic studies exist in Germany depends on our definition of the term. If we define it as Comic Wissenschaft, in analogy to literature Wissenschaft or culture Wissenschaft, then the answer might be a hesitant no. As another academic, Olfram, wrote in 2002, comic studies doesn't exist. You know, like, but if you think of comic studies as like an intersection point for several different other types of study, essentially, I'm not a comic study researcher. I'm not a comics researcher, but I'm a film researcher. But I wrote a comics I wrote an article on comics, or I wrote a paper on comics, right? And then and then there's someone else who's like a literature researcher who wrote a paper on comics. If you think of comic studies as like that network of papers and research activity that goes on by people who aren't even really, by people who don't see it as a focus, then yeah, there's comic studies. It's just not like, if you asked me, does comic studies exist, not only in Germany, but anywhere else, I would tentatively say yes. You know, And that kind of that state of affairs is evidence of the fact that like there are people who want to talk about it, there are people who see it seriously, but again, that wider academic space does not see the study as meaningful. Anyway, why am I talking about any of this? I've brought it up and I'll bring it again. Our industry kind of is seen as valid, viable, meaningful, or something worth doing when multiple forces kind of combine to essentially like choose a direction in which we are the most profitable. And that sounds really fucked up, but it's what needs to happen essentially in our current society. Essentially, game design becomes meaningful and seen as meaningful when academics go, oh, I can write paper about that. And billionaires go, oh, I can make money with that. And then they kind of craft a direction of what they think game design should be for the next 20 years. And we all just go down it, maybe like branching off, but there's a core direction, right? And like when it comes to film studies, the same thing. In film studies is older. It's like more like the 20s, I believe, 20s to 30s. And then for that, it's basically just like academics going, I can write a paper about that. And then like fucking billionaires going, I can make money with that, right? And then they craft a direction and that like that. And then everything just kind of follows that. What that does, when the billionaires and billionaires at the, and I'm just saying billionaires, I just mean rich people. When the rich people, the people with money, the entrepreneurs and the academics agree that your field is worth something, what usually happens is an explosion in spending, an explosion in job availability, an explosion in the variety of content that exists inside of that medium. Best way to put this again is with games, because they're very recent. Game design became a thing 30 years ago at most. And I'm saying that like not as like a conjecture. I roughly remember when like some universities started studying game design. Because I remember my cousin bringing that up to my dad, and that was like quite late. We need more. Yeah, well, honestly, you just need more of me, personally. You need more me. People like me writing and talking about comics all day, which, you know, you already got me. So, you know, if you value that, go to patreon.com. But yeah, like that's like it's a really important kind of like conjecture point. And game design started like 30 years ago or so as a university study degree. 30 or so years ago as like a major seriously taken seriously university degree. At the moment that happened, the industry ballooned in the next 10 years. From an industry that before was already like 30 years old, but still not making a lot of money. Before like game design became a thing, let's just pick a date, because I don't remember an actual date. Let's just say the 1990s. Before the 1990s, some games made money, most games were broke. Most games were not Doom or The Secret of Monkey Island. Most games went nowhere. Some games made money, and they usually made money on consoles, where the way they made money was through a complex trade-off of like high levels of marketing and all that stuff. Post the 90s, it went from some games making money to virtually any game that was half decent being released making money. Because the industry fucking exploded. Everyone took it seriously. Suddenly, like Warren Buffett was like, yeah, if you include indie games, now still don't make money. It's because there's more of them. But what I'm saying is suddenly Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are going, let's make let's put game design divisions in our company. Let's spend billions of dollars to make this a thing. Let's throw money at people to put out games, right? And yeah, you're right. There's still people who don't make money in the industry, but the industry as a whole is richer. It's like exponentially richer. And that's post-study. And I won't say the study is the only reason. Of course, there are economic incentives, but I'm saying that the study is what legitimized it enough that these old people, especially with money, could justify to themselves, this is worth putting money behind. Let me just read what somebody left in comments. I think there's a capitalistic influence there as well. Yeah, there's not as much of a business around like comic criticism and review. Almost no one making money off of being a full-time comics reviewer, unlike books and television. So it's one, harder to justify a whole comics degree in college, and two, inherently looked at as a hobby thing, not a career thing. Yeah, that's pretty much what I said, but you wrote it in a condensed way while I was like making the thoughts and putting them together. And like, I think the reason we're where we're at is because of not just because a bunch of academics don't want to take it seriously, whatever. I think the reason for where we're at is a combination of our lack of ability as a general industry to sell ourselves, which is a really big one. Comics are one of those things where you can kind of make them at home, never tell anyone, publish and print hundreds of copies without really going to a major printer and do fine. And like a number of us do that. My point I'm getting to is comics is a space where like you can have nothing, you can have virtually no audience, and you can just kind of enjoy making and putting them out. And like people will read them. People will read them. People will look at them. They might not go super far, but people will look at them. I keep thinking of how Art Spiegelman in Mouse talks about how he used to create comics for this indie comics scene. And like people had read them before he even got to his publisher. People had read his mini, like before he went to his publisher and his editor, they'd read those mini comics that he put out. That he didn't really take seriously. He put them out in college. They weren't major important things to him. But like they were just there for catharsis and they went far. And like that for me is like, I believe that's what Spiegelman said. But what matters is that for me here is essentially like the general comics vibe. We'd largely make these things as our artistic expression, as our catharsis. We don't really make them with the intent of making money. I can count on one hand the amount of comic creators who have ever walked up to me and been like, this is to make money. No, two hands, actually. This is to make money. I'm doing this with the intent of making money with my comic. Like, most of them just go, most of them either are so obsessed with their content or they are just so into the creation part. And the money part, the thinking outside of like, the thinking beyond the production part just doesn't really come into play. Meanwhile, game designers and filmmakers from like the beginning of time have been on that grind set of this has to make us money. I guess because their incentives are very different, right? Like they have to worry a lot more about essentially upkeep costs of materials, like the sheer time investment, cost of the devices that they need to make comics. Meanwhile, we could get away with making comics with a pen and some paper, which is pretty low cost entry. It's a low-cost barrier to entry. It's a low-cost environment, and it's one where making money can almost be negated by just having so much fun that losing $30 a month doesn't really matter. Hell, even losing $100 a month doesn't really matter for some people. I don't know, and that's kind of where like I ended up getting stuck. I ended up getting stuck there. So to really understand. To really kind of like push myself further, because this is where I got stuck in terms of like talking about German comics, European comics, American comics. And then I decided to like really go read about manga. So this is what I do here. I go and read about manga. I go read about the manga industry. I go and learn a little bit more about how it came up and what's going on there. And from what I understand, the manga industry exists out of pure spite. Pure unadulterated spite. Like they make money, but like it's basically just people who like a bunch of business people who really care about the industry, but are spiteful enough that they need to keep it alive. To some extent taking advantage of, and to some extent helping people who are more artist-minded make some money so that the industry can continue to live out of spite. That's all I learned when I looked at it. Like there was no like wider understanding. It was just, it's spite. Yeah. Somebody says there's people who criticize a bulk of modern anime as being written and drawn by artists who were raised on anime manga and become unoriginal or recycling tropes due to a lack of diverse influence. Do you think the superhero focus of comics in the US is partially because of something similar? I mean, like, I think extending. I'm gonna answer that like this. I think extending the conversation around comic studies, like taking the conversation around like extending the conversation of the German comic space being very in existence, but also not, and also how that is kind of a microcosm of how all of the general comic space outside of Germany and just in the wider world kind of exists and kind of doesn't. I think that issue of like the unoriginality, the recycling of tropes, isn't due to a lack of diverse influence. I believe it's just like it's hard for people to even get. It's not that there isn't diverse influence. It's that it's hard for people to get diverse influence, as in because while these spaces are wide and full of stuff, all that stuff is hidden like everywhere, but is like hidden in different corners and parts of the industry under different names, and sometimes just kind of put in places that make them hard to reach for the average creator to like get access to. Like an example is one of the things that really influenced me in my game design and in my writing is a lot of the indie games I've played and a lot of the indie books I've read. And those are really easy to get. You walk into a bookstore, there's probably a book written by somebody who has sold less than 200 copies. You go to a library, there's a couple of those. If you want to buy a comic that was written by one person and read by less than 200-300 people, you need to go to some fucking depths of hell. Like you need to like search, find your comic space, you know, your comic circle in your area, then like find the person making it, have them directly sell it to you, or else you'll never see it. So I don't think it's a situation of people becoming unoriginal due to a lack of diverse influence. I think it's a combination of people finding it very hard to find that diverse influence, even though they're looking. So it's not like there's a lack of accessibility to that diverse influence. And also, people just realizing that some things sell better. Like, I think that's a really big thing. As much as you want to call every villainous comic unoriginal, it still sells. And as a creator, you got to make money, or else you'll die. So I don't know. Like, I think that's what's happening in general. And comics in the US, the superior focus of comics in the US is basically because of that. They made a few genres. One of them did really, really well. The creators coming afterwards just found it very hard to find diverse content. And even when they did find it, they realized that it wasn't really worth doing because they would never make money doing it. And such that we're back here making the same thing. Like, it feels weird to say. We're talking about tropes. It's an amazing rabbit hole to go down when you start drawing parallels between manga and commedia dell'arte. Oh, commedia dell'arte. Sorry, it took me a second to read that. I hate when people write things that are in English. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we're talking about tropes in comics in general. There's a crazy rabbit hole you can go down, even within very small groups of very small like overall comic types. Like even within the very sheer distinction between like bande dessines and like Dutch comics and like German comics, despite the fact that all three of those comics were all basically crafted in the same Franco-Belgian German region, is insane. You know, like the guys who were studying it were all were all really close to each other. And like, yet, even within those places where the culture is very similar and the ideas are very similar, the tropes that these three different types of comics have can be so distinct sometimes. And that's before you get anywhere else in Europe. So that's quite interesting. Anyway, back to Comic Wissenschaft. I got so sidetracked there. Back to Comic Wissenschaft. Okay, so I find out that comics in Japan are basically run at making money exclusively through spite. So I try to find out, you know, what's going on in Germany especially, but also all around Europe, to in terms of our version of comics making money out of spite? Well, there's Webtoon, obviously. There's also the Webcomic Factory. So the Webtoon Factory, that's what they're called, the Webtoon Factory, which is a French BD website. But there really isn't much else going on. There really isn't much else in terms of people making money through spite that aren't like small collectives, small, very specifically geared collectives. Especially as time wears on and the industry at large is either, especially in Europe, is either seen exclusively as a tool for showing some level of political dissent or funny haha memes, which is a strange dichotomy to witness. And so I start to like try to understand what's going on elsewhere in Europe. I basically, at this point, I go to Japan, I come back, everyone's running out of spite. I come back to Germany, I'm like, okay, I come to Germany and wider Europe, and yeah, we don't really have people running out of spite. So running their entire industries out of spite. So I tried to understand a little bit more about like our comics first. Because I figured one of the reasons why like Japan's industry can make all the money they make exclusively out of spite is because there's something about their comics, something about the media they're putting out that people take seriously. Because like people in Japan take manga very seriously. The industries take them seriously, the creators take it seriously, the readers take it seriously. You don't get a 20th Century Boys comic from a space that doesn't take comics. You don't get 20th Century Boys from a space that doesn't take comics seriously. You don't get a comic discussing like growing up and sex and the 90s in like a very holistic way in a space that doesn't take comics seriously. You just don't. So I'm like, okay, there's gotta be something about their comics, how they were introduced, how they were brought up, how people were shown them that kind of made them get taken seriously. So I come back to Europe and I start looking at European comics. I'm gonna show you some comics here. I started looking at European comics and I start reading a little bit more Scott McCloud. Scott McCloud in his book, Understanding Comics, talks a lot about panel transitions and essentially like artistic representation. Essentially, like he goes, "Hey, for a comic, there is an amount of art and story. There's an amount of art realism. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. There's an amount of like art realism, grounding in your art, where it's not all like a bunch of what you would call like surrealist or pictorial stuff, but it's largely like meaningfully representative art and an amount of story complexity that like goes into a comic for it to hit a certain audience, right? That's pretty much what he gets in, what he says at some point. And so I'm looking at European comics. I'm back in Europe, back in the old stomping grounds, if you will. And I start off by reading some, good old British comics. You guys know British people make comics? It's cringe. Let me show you. So British comics in general have always kind of followed this frame point. British comics are, obviously not taken very seriously. They have this like very specific aesthetic of single page format with a story that is extremely simplistic with a lot of non sequitur and like aspect to aspect transitions in them. Basically, it's like, don't pay too much attention. This is supposed to be as short as possible. So we're going to showcase you this story in as few words and as few panels as possible, right? Which for me, makes me understand why people in Britain see comics as a leisure, like toy thing, like a story for kids. Because like, if what you're getting is like this comic that is incredibly simplistic, newspaper-esque, Sunday newspaper type comics, I get it. I get why you would think like that. But then I decided to look at the rest of Europe. So this is Asterix, a BD from France. BD means bande dessinée. It's the French word for comic. It has its own aesthetic. If you notice, it's a lot more character driven. If you're looking, these are only a few panels, but you'll notice it's a lot more character driven, where characters' actions kind of drive transitions. They have a lot of panel to panel, action to action transitions, and they spend a lot of time. They spend a lot of time fleshing out story with like strong depth. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm like getting across my points in my head. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, that is what French comics are. But this just asterisks. Let me look at something else. So I look at Tintin. Tintin does the same thing, does the same shit. They too are like putting out comics like Tintin's creators, they too are putting out comics that are very character focused, character driven, wherein the characters, the transitions are very much panel to panel, action to action, where essentially the characters that are driving the entire story. I then go over to reading manga, checking out manga, especially like Blame, because what I was trying to understand here was essentially like, hey, what is the secret sauce, Japan? What are you doing that's making people take you seriously? What are you doing that's making people see you as more than nothing? And in my travels, if you will, the one thing I noticed that was different is that while European and Japanese comics all have a very similar kind of general aesthetic in terms of like how the comics are made and how the panels are arranged and how the way the characters' motivations are built and even the quality of writing, Japanese comics are more willing to make you depressed. That's kind of it. But they've always openly been willing to make you depressed because they haven't always been taken seriously. The Japanese manga has had its own space of not being taken seriously, not being seen as a major media movement, until they just started openly making people depressed. That's kind of it. Like, and I'm saying it like that as for a joke, but what I mean is essentially they upped the emotional complexity, right? It wasn't about telling a story with the intent of just leaving a feel-good feeling at the end, or telling a story with the desire of, yeah, it's gonna be sad, but it's not gonna be like that sad, you know? It's gonna be funny, but it's not gonna be, and it's gonna be kind of offensive, but it's not gonna like meaningfully challenge anything, you know? Comics in our space largely don't do that. They're fun, funny, enjoyable. You can see it on Webtoon. They're fun, funny, enjoyable. Challenging like established social norms, cultural norms, asking big questions, being willing to make you depressed. That is like a manga thing, which a lot of creators in our space have picked up, don't get me wrong. But that is a manga thing, right? And essentially that denotes some level of maturity. Essentially, you start getting taken seriously in the comic space, it seems, when you make Ava. That's it. You get taken seriously in the comic space when you make Ava, when you make a piece of media with the intent to cause severe depression in under 16s. And it makes sense. It makes sense, at least to me. It makes a lot of sense because essentially what that can be denoted as to specific people is emotional complexity. And that emotional complexity can then be seen as like the route, as like something worth funding. I think a lot about how like games became this monolithic multi-billion dollar industry around the time we started thinking that games like Uncharted, where things are taken super seriously, when emotional complexity was driven up highly, when the audience's expectations and desires were not always considered, and instead what the artist wanted them to experience was considered more, was around the time when the industry got really fucking rich, right? Dragon Age, Uncharted, Borderlands, that kind of stuff. And in manga, it seems like a similar thing occurs. At some point, they just start making comics with the intent of like, fuck you. I don't care what you want. I don't care what your Sunday cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon feeling is. It's like, it's like essentially, no, now I'm gonna just make you depressed because I want to, and you're gonna like it. And they did. And around that time, the industry becomes a lot more profitable, a lot more popular. And all these industries become a lot more profitable, a lot more popular. And I think like in our general space, in our environment, right? Well, we've lacked that. And I think a big part of why we lack that is because unlike in Japan, and this is bringing it all back to comic studies, unlike in Japan, we don't talk about our comics with a lot of depth culturally. Like, I know it's very common to think of anime reviewers as this white guy with 5 copies of Ava from 5 copies of all the releases of Ava, and like who keeps telling you that like, oh man, it's so deep when like when the character speaks Japanese, and how that's a bit, and how it's better that you should watch subs over dubs and all that shit. But like even in Japan, like Ava coming out, stuff like that coming out, were big cultural phenomena. Not like the world ended or anything, but it was just like it impacted a lot of people, which led to a lot of people talking about it with meaning and with emotion, which led to it becoming more popular, which led to it impacting more people. As Inky says in chat, sad equals deep is a phenomenon in criticism. And like, people seem to be more likely to criticize you when you're willing to do sad equals deep. Which is kind of fucking weird, right? And academia seems to be more willing to take you seriously when you do sad equals deep. So academia seems to really, really want you to essentially fit some mold of idea of depth. And by extension, the rich people who want to put money into our industry want to feel like they're putting money into more than just the hobby of a few crack addicts and depressed people online, depressed terminally online creators. So like, it's a weird place to end up at. And this is where I ended up at. But like fundamentally, right, our entire like comics, our like comic studies, our entire like comic space, our issues with comics, our lack of the lack of being taken seriously by the wider world as an industry, or as like an academic point of study, seems to essentially revolve around the fact that like, initial offerings in the Western comic space, in the global north, if you will, of comic spaces, typically around Europe and America, just were not sad equals deep. They were poor people fodder, just like fun. They were not sad equals deep. And when they finally became sad equals deep, they were so sad as to be unmarketable to the audience. There was no like gentle introduction of sadness. It was just too sad. And nobody really wanted to tread the line of writing, a mouse style story where it's not all where the sadness was like intermittent and as such more manageable. And now we're where we're at, where we're not taking it seriously. We don't got as much money. And we're just a bunch of terminally online crack addicts making what you call it, romance fodder, because it's what we like to do. And that's odd to me. I don't know. That's just, when I ended up here, that's odd to me. We were too depressive at the wrong time. We could have been less depressive at the right. We could have been less depressive. Somebody says, honestly, I'd like if comics would have to get that manga treatment. The thing is, I should say, like really importantly, despite all of the thing I'm saying about the criticism, fundamentally a big part of it is still the economic incentive. Like the comic studies problem seems to be one part criticism is not deep enough, ha ha ha, lol, and also one really big part, it just doesn't make money. It just doesn't make enough money. And like the only way we could get to that point is if we were making money We're making money like mangas do. But mangas only make that money by abusing their workers. Like they make that money through abuse. That money, that industry exists on the bedrock of essentially just fucking, that money exists on the bedrock of essentially just whipping a bunch of artists constantly. Like, and you know, this is, you know, I'm kind of trying to walk you guys through my thought process, my study process, my like, you know, how I got to where I am. But essentially, like, it then made me start questioning the validity of being studied at all. Like, because like at first I came into this going, we're not taken seriously. This is very frustrating. We're not taken seriously. This is very irritating. We are not seen by people as worth the money they spend. And often comics are seen as a charity case. You do comics because it's nice and because people like art. You don't put money into comics because it makes meaningful money. But like now I'm like, maybe I don't want them to put money, at least not in the way they currently do. And maybe I don't want them to study me, at least not in the way they currently do. Because essentially the only reason they're doing that is because they're basically trying to find a way to undervalue me, undermine me, and like reduce my essentially create the economic incentives they need to make money, not that I need to make money. And that's weird. Let's say weird, that's expected, I guess. Right? Like, because then it got me thinking about film again and how the film industry was dealing with a lot of the problems that manga is dealing with, but like ages ago. And they solved it, of course, by unionizing and stuff. But like they were dealing with those issues because people were finally trying to study them. People were finally starting to put money into them. And as a result of that, people were largely trying to find a way to undercut them almost exclusively. You know? And hell, if they could have made AI movie makers back then, they probably fucking would have. The only thing that changed that, the only thing that made those studies and that money go from being the product of pure abuse to being the product of love and genuine interest was like their filmmakers organizing, essentially. Film workers putting themselves together and saying, we will not be treated like shit. But these people still knew that the economic incentives for the studying and the money that they were throwing in were still there. So they essentially went, well, we still need to do this because this makes us money, but fine, we won't step on you in like the non-sexy way. I don't know. I hope I've made like points here that people understand. Let me see what Inky's saying in chat. Hey, romance fodder is a staple of literally every art form. Harley Quinn novels, rom-com films, drama, TV shows, fandomship wars. Don't put that evil on comic shoulders alone. Fair enough. And then Pearl says, like, there were a bunch of arguments in my friend group between the ones who were willing to sell themselves undervalued to keep the industry running and the ones who wanted to set a standard. I mean, I think in terms of this study being taken meaningfully, I think I will refer back to my book. I'll refer back to Daniel Stein. Daniel Stein in his article talks a lot about how long comic studies have been going on. They've been going on since like the 70s, right? In a very heterogeneous field. And despite all the study that's been going on for, at this point, 40, 50 years, right? And despite all the different types of content that have come out, despite all the different people that have discussed comics and tried to elevate them in the industry, right? Despite it being seen more and more as prestigious and meaningful and hard work that should be taken seriously, like we're regularly, the people with power, the people who do all the people with power still continue to like undervalue us, right? Like despite us getting closer to being studied, we continue to get a little bit more undervalued. Our industry will keep running whether we are valued high or low. Like that's just gonna keep happening. But like as we near academic legitimacy, as we near industrial legitimacy every day, the idea of undervaluing yourself to keep the industry running is the idea of a fool or a stooge. You're either dumb or you've been tricked. Like those are the only outcomes. You're either really, really dumb or you've been tricked. I don't think that's even a hyperbolic statement. Because like, for you to believe that like an industry that is growing by the year and getting closer and closer to becoming a major staple in media, right? Thanks, Amy. Major staple in media. For you to see that industry and think, oh yeah, by the way, I still need to keep it going by undervaluing myself. You've either been duped by people richer than you, or you're just a fucking idiot. Like, I don't really know what else to say about that one, to be honest. Or you're just broke and you're desperate, which honestly valid. That one, valid as fuck. Like truly valid as fuck. Like I get it. I get where you're coming from in that situation. If you're just desperate for money, fair enough, chief. Please make that bread, eat food. Yeah. I mean, like, the despair. I feel bad whenever I do that because I don't want to make people like sad about this. It's just whenever I'm like reading about our industry, it seems that in large part, our problems are self-inflicted. Like, don't get me wrong, people are inflicting harm on us, but like why we are still here is largely self-inflicted because we just haven't done some things, or we haven't said some things, or we just stalled on doing some important things when everyone else was doing them. And now we're kind of reaping the rewards of not doing them on time. You know? Like, somebody was talking to me the other day about like AI art, which by the way, now you can opt out of a lot of AI art things. But like, a lot of the AI art problems we're having is because we got so comfortable posting our content online without watermarking it ever. Which isn't like a thing to blame you for. It's just, I wish we did what movies have been doing, which is watermarking all of their stuff all the time. Since like the 70s, you know? Like, I wish we thought about doing that. It just feels like we're taking a lot of hits because we're not making the best decisions all the time. Most art forms right now have a dynamic where the schlocky giant popular hit pays for itself, but also the small unpopular but artistically valuable projects that would otherwise be too risky fly. I'll be able to listen to this Fortnite fish is telling me about Geralt being in. Wait, what does that say? What does that last thing say? Being in what? Write in like spaced out letters because I can't tell. Don't worry, I'm very spiteful. I'm spiteful too, Pearl. I like being spiteful. I mean, like, I don't know. Gang, I gotta ask. Would it make you happier if you found out that it's a dance game emo? Yeah. Oh, being in dance game. Okay, cool. Anyway, guys, I just want to know, like, would it make you happier? Would it make you happier if comics, like you could go to university and do comic studies? Like just that? Would that make you happier? Would that make you feel like your industry is more legitimate? Would that add value to you? Because from what I've read and from everything I've been researching and from everything I've been looking at, especially from the German angle of like where there's a lot of conversation around Germany for some fucking reason, specifically, everything I've been looking at there, no. Like, no, we're not talking about the class, we're talking about like conceptually. People now think it's worth becoming a comics scholar, not self-identifying as one, getting a degree that says PhD in comics studies. Like, that's a thing you could do. Would that add value to you? Do you think it would just be another avenue under which you would be harmed? Do you think it would just not do fuck all? You think it would even help our industry in large? I don't know. Because I think it could help our industry in large. It could help us make more money. But like, I don't know how much of that money will actually get to us. And the thing is, for that to really like go anywhere, we need to change a lot of how our industry works for us to really get most of that money that we might get. We might. And that's like a really key word, might. I don't know. Like in like the current I don't know, the current expansion as well, like the current expansion as well of our industry as it grows. Like if an art caught the live late, hey Kiki, if like a comic studies course were to come into place, right? I feel like one of the things that's going to get me about it is that one, it's going to be like a very like temporary course. They'll bring it out tentatively. It'll be out for a bit, and the industry will have like one bad year, and then it'll be gone forever. Which is the thing that universities have done. So it's not like that strange. Happened to a lot of film studies university early on, so it wouldn't be that weird. Like, it would be like film studies. I have no idea what these people are doing. Film studies is like pretty fucking cool though. They do a lot. They make films. Like it's literally just like comics class. That's it. You learn how to make comics, you make comics, and then you make comics about you try to make new comic topics. That's what it would be. Because that's what film studies is. You make films, you talk about films, you talk about thematic, meaningful principles of films, cinematography and the like, and all the decisions that go into it. And then you make new films using those ideas, but in unique and interesting ways, is the hope. That's what film studies is, in large part. And like comic studies being that sounds really cool. You know, more indie experimental comics, fucking great story, great move, dude. At the same time, I'm not seeing any other value for like I don't see the value for us long term, I guess. Like, it would be us basically going like, well, this is great. We have comic studies now. Then our industry will get really big because there'll be a lot of comic studies graduates at some point who all need jobs. And so they'll all start their own little comic company, or they'll all start their own production studio. They'll start like working with film studios. They'll get bought out, blah, blah, blah. The industry will fucking balloon, right? Which would be great for all of us because we'll make more money. But then also like, we'll just get fucked in the end because like first more money will come in, then our industry will then like coalesce into like 2-3 companies and then they'll hold all the money. Which is what they already do now, but they'll do it again. There are places like SCAD with comics degrees, and I know there's some actual analysis classes involved in, but mostly focused on the actual production side. Yeah, I mean, like film studies in the schools that I've been in is both. It's both production and analysis. It's like production and analysis for sure. But I understand why people think that they don't actually study. They don't actually do much. But yeah, where I've been is production and analysis for sure, because you can't really analyze a film without understanding how it's made and the like complex interplay of production and film and production of the final product, you know? So that's what I'm used to. I see where you're coming from though. Huh. Do you think, okay, real talk, if the University of Cambridge put out a comic studies degree right now, do you think it'd be a fad or like a major thing for like a few months, for a few decades? Or do you think it'd be like a 5-year fad where like essentially it comes out, it does all right, people go to it, and then after like 5 years when like no billion-dollar company comes out, immediately it gets fucking tanked? And also like, in terms of, a lot of people in chat are European right now, so that's great. In terms of European comics, right? Like, you know, do you think it would actually happen here first, or it would happen in America first? Which is another thing to think about. Like, who do you think would be the first person to do that? I think America, because they care a lot more about this stuff. I'd be interested to get someone who went to SCAD for comics to interview them. Free podcast idea. Thanks, Inky. That's actually a really good idea. I feel like talking to a university graduate would stress me out. I think it would be a fad because, you know, capitalism. Valid, Sola. And yes, you are smart enough, Sola. I think people who would be interested wouldn't have the money. But if it were somebody you didn't have to pay a fortune, hell yeah, I'd teach them myself. so broke? Why are we so broke? I've never spoken to a comic creator that's been like, oh, look at me, I'm rich. I'm a millionaire. Like, I think of big creators like Uruchan and like freaking and like Mess and like Alan Moore. And I'm just like, I don't think, even if they're the richest people in comics, they're still broke. Like, that's so fucked. Why are we so fucking poor? Why are we so poor? Yeah, this is another thing I didn't bring up. Like, a lot of the incentives around making a lot of these spaces, things is like, essentially, we don't have money. Like, early game design studios basically just clip the audio, honestly. Clip it and use it. But early game studios just like bought some universities out. They would be like, hey, make a game design section. There's no money in comics. Also me. Why are all comic artists broke? There's no money in comics, not because like there's no money in comics. I need to clarify that. There is money in comics. None of that money gets to the artist. And like, we're broke because none of that money gets to us. And that money doesn't get to us because the people with power over us are fucked. And they take like 80% of our cash. Like, Webtoon holds like most of our money. And they make it really hard for us to access money in any other way but them. Like, that's just an example. There's money. That's what we need to fuck up. Honestly, guys, we just need to make a new collective. Like, fuck it. Make a collective of comic creators who cross-promo and bargain together. We'll call ourselves the Union of Comic Associates, or UCA. And we'll be like a union for all comic creators where anyone, you can rep us publicly, but everyone is technically a member, whether they want to be or not. But like, we have people we specifically rep. That would be such a move. The Union of Comic Associates. UCA. UCA. Or we call ourselves the Union of Comic Loving Associates. UCLA, the University of California. It's an opt-out union where we have specific people we represent, but it's an opt-out union. That'd be a cool move. Unionize. I feel like the first like 6 videos I made of 2022 are just unionize. And now I'm back here. It's the end of the year. I've avoided saying unionize now at this point for like 2 or 3 months. And I'm back saying unionize. Our industry's fucked. Comic studies won't change shit. Unionize. Unionize. That's the end of today's podcast. Fuck. This isn't even... That's really cool, actually. A Comic Associates. Wait, that's my fucking name. That's my fucking name. Wait, they stole my name before I stole my name? Fuck me, dude. I'm not fucking late. I made that name 2 years ago. Yeah, they could take that. That's not true, by the way. Sue them to get Webtoon coins. Yeah, like the coins, in chat you earn Webtoon coins? You can use them on Twitch. Oh my God. But yeah, no, like, that's actually sounds really neat, Pearl. Dude, I want a comics union in my place. You have 6 coins. You can't have 6 coins. What the fuck are you spending them on? What? What are you spending them on? Like, there's not even anything in that box to spend them on. What the fuck? 6.4K. It's gonna be weird. Like, I think fundamentally, the more, as I said earlier, the more seriously our industry gets taken, the more unions come up, blah, 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 the higher a chance where they would just fuck us over. Like, I'll be real. The higher chance where people will make mistakes, where people will care, where things will get worse for the average comic creator. And often it will take a really tremendous effort for things to get better on our end, while it will take a very small amount of effort for things to get worse. It's historically what has happened in other industries. Like, industry gets taken seriously, gets bigger, gets big enough that people want to put tons of money into it. Unions pop up, wasting people's time and just being terrible. Often because they're just lazy. And then one union pops up that is the brainchild of like someone maybe prominent, maybe not, but someone who's willing to basically work for the rest of their lives propping up the union. And like that's the one that saves everyone's asses. If there's as much of an issue with artists getting paid late as there are rumors about, there's potential for a lawsuit against Webtoon for late wages. Yeah, no. Even if there is, we're not going to win. You'd have to collectively fight this. Like the class would have to fight this. The class of creators on Webtoon fitting that description. And like they would need to understand what constitutes a class in that situation. And a lot of them also, by signing with Webtoon, have like waived their arbitration rights. So they can't really like do anything but like tell Webtoon they're mad. And then Webtoon goes, okay, and? Aqua Cthulhu, hey buddy, good to see you. I'm glad you finally caught a stream. This is like the most disorganized stream. It started out pretty organized, and everyone started asking me questions, and I got very sidetracked. So I'm very sidetracked right now. My brain is talking about unions, comics, and people talking about Webtoon underpaying people. I had like an organized list, and then like 2 people said something to me and ruined my brain. My ADHD brain is fucking me over right now. Jesus Christ. Don't ask about the fucking flag. Don't ask about the flag. What's with the flag? Oh my God. But no, like, you know what I'm thinking? I was reading in, what'd you call it? To the list. I was reading recently about Global Comics and a partnership they made with another comics company. And like, why I'm bringing it up, honestly, is essentially like, it's interesting to me that our industry is so diverse, where so many different things, are going on, so many different people are moving around, so many different pieces are moving on this chessboard, because it tells me that we're like growing exponentially. Like this time last year, if you told me that there would be 5 webcomic platforms of meaningful repute to like take seriously, I tell you, you were full of shit. You know, and now in the year of our Lord 2022, there are 5 webcomic platforms to take seriously. Webtoon, Tapas, Voice Me, complicated. Global Comics, you know, and like whichever one of Limoon and Delitoon and Dilly Hub comes out of that game alive. Like there are 5, there could be 5, there are 4 and like 3 more that are meaningful industrial powerhouses, or could be. That's fucking weird for me, right? Like as a member of the community. So like it tells me that we're like growing crazy, you know? Voice Me managed to go from 0 to 3 million monthly active users in like 2 years. That's an industry that is hungry for content. But at the same time, like as we've been growing, and we have been growing exponentially and crazy, like it's just gone worse. Which tells me that like the more legitimate we become, the more we grow, the more people take us seriously, the more likely it is that we will just become worse. I don't really want that. I say we just return to monkey. Go back to drawing comics on paper, photocopying them to make issues, and folding paper and printing it to make, comic releases, and then just selling them by hand at Comic Cat. That's what I want us to do. That's my plan. I don't know about you, but that's my plan. Like, that's the only way I see going forward without stressing myself out to hell. Holy shit. The money's grown exponentially, so is the industrial abuse. Tell me about it. Back to hieroglyphics. Thank you, Pearl. Return to hieroglyphics. Return to monkey. Return to creator monkey. Guys, we're going back. No, Kiki, you can't do this to me. No, Kiki. You can't be a fucking coward. Look at me, Kiki. Look at me. Look into my eyes. I'm blinking right now. Look at me. All right? It's fucking important that you understand that we need to do this for ourselves, for us. We're going back to hieroglyphics on stone. Okay, Kiki, that's what it is. There are no questions fucking asked, nothing. Industry grows, more creators might have to pay for it. Always a double-edged sword. Yeah, Cthulhu. Shit. No paper, only stone. Return to monkey. That's... Oh my fucking God. I hate you all. Like, holy shit. Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's just, it's weird that, like, even with that though, I'm very hopeful. No paper, carve them into trees, nature. Okay, everybody in chat's returning to Unga Bunga. I paint Barren Cave. Okay, great. Good to see it. Love the chat is going full on, my chat is going full on fucking anarcho-paleo. Oh my God. Anarcho-primitivism, chest thumping, me carve comic, wall, comic tell story, no inka, no paper. What the fuck is chat doing? This is like my favorite fucking thing in the world. Oh my God. I'm gonna screenshot this and tweet it. People has got Monkey Bavaria stream. Becoming anarcho primitivist comic creators. This is what Germany does to people. Your mind on German. That reminds me of a Dare ad from like the 90s. Like, this is your brain on caffeine. This is your brain on crack. This is your brain on Germany. Your brain on Germany. People return to monkey. People desire the simple life. Want to go cave, draw painting, paint big bison. God, I'm fucking dying. I'm sorry. I feel bad for anybody who listens to the VOD for this, because essentially this is just gonna end up here. Can't wait for the newest isekai. Me fall into bigger cave with cave ladies. Dude, that'd be so fucking hype though. Like a caveman isekai, but it's like a caveman moving to just a slightly further ahead period of time where everyone is still caveman, but the caves are bigger. Remarried bunkerness. Oh my freaking God. It's just, I'm going back to sleep. Oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah. Okay. let me do some housekeeping before I actually clean up. For the most part, I guess, like, we kind of run the topic. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things. I'm just going to do some really quick cleanup before I have to head out because it is past midnight here. Quick question. Do you want me to use a VTuber avatar or to continue working towards getting a full set? I'm working on getting a set so that I can just film these in person. Second piece of cleanup. I will be putting out 3 different pieces of content for the year ends. I'm putting out the 2 interviews with the 2 people, with 2 creators, with the 2 CEOs, bringing out those 2 interviews. And I'm finally going to be putting out a top 10 webcomics. I'm putting out a top 10 webcomics of 2022. If you have any suggestions, please post them in the comics conversation chat in Discord and ping me at Nen, and then just tell me what you think should be in the top 10. My top 10 video will be me in Meat Space. You will not see my face, but you will see a good part of myself. So that will be there, and it will be a thing that I will do. I will put that out into Meat Space. It will be a real thing that exists. It will be a top 10 video where I show body and I talk. And I think that'd be pretty fun for us to do if I can get my camera working right. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I know this isn't like our biggest topic, but like this for me, yeah, the Voiceman Global Comics interviews. I know this is not our biggest topic, but like, this is the last show for me of the year, pretty much. This is my last live stream of 2022. I don't want to live stream anymore this year. I want to take a break. I want to have some peace of mind. I want to focus on 2023 and all the content that's coming out. So this is the last streams where I'm bringing up all these different things. And one of them is that's good thing to know. People think a VTuber wants me to do a comic. Somebody thinks that I should do in-persons for my personal brand. Lol, I love how you imagine that I have plans. But that's good to know. Some people want me to remain 2D or VTuber at most. Good to know. Yes. Do you want me to put those interviews with the creators on Spotify? Yes or no? Tell me like now. Because once you say it, I'll do it. But tell me like now. Like now. Cool. They'll be on Spotify. That's it. They'll be on Spotify. What else is there? Yes, top 10 webcomics of 2022. Make sure you hit me up with whatever you hit me up with. Make sure you hit me up with comics that aren't on Webtoon. I am avoiding Webtoon. I need to look at other shit. And frankly, 2023 is going to be a minimal Webtoon year. Minimal Webtoon year. We're going to focus a lot more on everything outside of Webtoon. I want to focus on outside content. I want to focus on other things. I will still do reviews. We'll still, fine. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Reviews are coming. I don't know when, but reviews are coming. I'm just going to say it so everyone knows. This is final stream of 2023, so whatever. Reviews are coming. Webcomic reviews are coming. I have found a format that I am comfortable with reviewing, so they're going to be a thing at some point. I'm not happy with reviews, but yeah, they exist. I could show you one that I was working on, but like never finished, but I don't really see the point. I can post it on Patreon. Yeah, this is the final stream of 2022. Thank you very much to everyone who helped me get to this point. I know this isn't like where we thematically started, but we're thematically ending here, so go fuck yourself. Thank you to everyone who's helped me get to this point. Thank you to my assistant, Tyler, for being literally the best. Thank you to every single person who helps me get all my content done. Thank you to all of my patrons, all of my wonderful patrons, which have, in my opinion, fucking increased beyond belief. In my quite honest truth, I thought I would never have more than one patron. I have 9, which is not a lot. I get it. It's not like a billion people or whatever. You know what I mean? But like, holy shit. Dude, I have 11. I have 11. 11. This is such bullshit. You are all dumb for giving me your fucking money. Thanks, though. I appreciate it. Thank you in no particular order to my patrons, who I'm going to thank for the last time of 2022, in a live stream at least. Thank you to Kat. Thank you to Tyler. Thank you to Jenny Tunes. Thank you to X Sensei. Thank you to Jackie. Thank you to Inkblot. Thank you to Paige. Thank you to Bailey. Thank you to Cheesy. Thank you to Geek Boy Studios. Thank you to Ashlyn. You are all truly wonderful. If you would like to give me more money, go to patreon.com/webcomics hub, where you can get exclusive extra video a month, literally for $1 a month and up. It's a donate whatever you want to kind of pot. So you just go in and you give me as much or as little as you like. And I will pretty much just make what I make forever. Tell your friends, share all my content with them, share my Patreon with them, make them give me money. Tell your friends to give me their money. What else is there to keep to clean up on? Oh yeah, I have 12 patrons now. Thank you to Pearl C. Fuck you. Podcast. Let's look forward to 2023, a year of a new year with the same me, and maybe some new shit too. I don't really know how 2023 is gonna go. By the way, that animated video is done, so the patrons can know that that's say done. It's on the way. It's in production. Fuck off. I'm a little podcaster. So guys, it's our last stream of 2023. What do you want to ask me? Your questions for the year. Time to ask me anything you want to ask me so we can cover and get it done with. I figure I might as well give you the opportunity. Ask me any and all questions. Difficult, easy, weird. It's a great time. Now's a great time to get that into my head. Why am I gay? Well, you see, basically, one day I looked at another man and I said, "Wow, kind of pretty," and that was why I'm gay. That other man, his name was Childish Gambino. Did you know that he's fucking Donald Glover? Damn, goddamn, can't believe that celebrities are having sex like that. Yeah, none of you knew that, did you? What else is there? But genuinely, seriously, any questions? Ask me all the difficult questions of the year. There's a video I wanted to make this year that I never made, and I'm probably not going to make until 2023. It's a live stream. But like, yeah. Wait, aren't they the same person? Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are, bro. There's a video I wanted to make this year that I couldn't make. The last podcast before the 3000 webcomics video is out again. Yeah, I should say this. This is actually kind of relevant. I'm gonna say this for like business reasons, I guess. For like reasons. Anytime, Aqua Cthulhu, your comments keep me going. Please, everybody, leave comments on every video. If you guys leave comments on every video possible, it will make me live longer. It gives me, every comment you leave gives me superhuman powers. Gives me superhuman powers every single time. So you need to leave comments. Anyway, every one of you needs to leave comments all the time. Or else I won't live. Oh, by the way, gang. This video is back up. So you can go back to sharing it. The thing in it that's bad has been removed. So this is back up. Do I see Inkblot performing as a major art platform? No. Inkblot is kind of shit in a way that I can't really express. Inkblot is kind of shit. Like it could become something, but its number one problem is a handful of things. One, it's just really fucking bad. Like so for people who don't know this, Webcomics Hub has accounts on Mastodon. It has a Hive Social. It has like a fucking co-host, for fuck's sake, right? I have all of them. All of the relevant accounts, I have one. I have one somewhere. Like, you know, I have a Webcomics Hub account on all of them. And like the problem with a lot of these places like Hive Social and stuff is largely that they're bad. That's it. They're just kind of bad. Hive Social didn't let me post images for months and I just stopped using it. That's it. And like that's what's gonna happen with Inkblot. It's just kind of a little shit, kind of a little rough, doesn't have a mobile app as far as I know. Regularly tells you to like give them money instead of looking for alternative methods of making money. It just comes off a little bad. Now, do I think that they could turn it around? 100%. But like, oh, it does have an app? Cool, it doesn't have an app. They could turn it around? 100% they could turn it around. But it would need a lot more than what they have right now. I don't know how old they are. I don't remember. I think they started in 2020. Yeah, they started in 2020. And like in 2 years, I know like it's really expensive to get developers and stuff, but like there is an amount of production quality people expect other than which if they don't receive, they'll just disconnect. And like, unfortunately, Inkblot does not reach that requirement. Now, that's not to say that anyone in the support team or the people who work there are terrible. Everyone at Inkblot seems to be so fucking cool, honestly. You know, they're all so fucking cool, but like, it doesn't seem to be working right now. I think it's possible for them to do better though. And I'm sure if they could get like, if Inkblot could get like $200,000 in funding, yeah, if Inkblot could get $200,000 in funding, like $200,000 flat, nothing else. If Inkblot could get that, like that's a big move. Inkblot is basically meant to be a Deviant ArtStation replacement. So I'm not really worried about the meme thing per se, but I do agree with you. Essentially, other platforms just don't have any of the memes. Like Hive Social served me fucking porn on main for no reason. I was very confused. I was on the Webcomics Hub account. I went to Hive Social's they have like a Discover section where you like search things up. It's called Discover. I went to Discover and I was looking at new, and on new there was just a nude person. So I just basically got blasted with porn on main. And I was like, why? And like, there's so much art porn. Like in the Webtoon hashtag, there is an enormous, I'm quite literally looking right now at like, on the Webtoon hashtag on Hive Social, at a shirtless man with a giant bulge. His name is Caleb, from the creator Celtic Wolf 55. Like, also, when I say Hive Social is jank, when I press my phone's back button while on Hive Social, it kicks me out of the fucking app because they haven't tethered your like phone buttons to the app like they're supposed to, which is like app development 101. So like there's that, right? And like when it comes to Mastodon, Mastodon's main server was down yesterday because people were fleeing Twitter. And like I couldn't make a Mastodon.social account. I have a Mastodon account. I could show it to you for fuck's sake. Mastodon.sdf, whatever. Like I have a Mastodon account. I just like it's just not discoverable. Like I'm on the wrong Mastodon server, so I can't fucking find my account. Like, there's no like searching for people. I'm like account locked. I'm server locked. And like all the people seem to be on Mastodon.social or Mastodon.online, and nobody is on my server. So I'm fucked. Like nobody can ever find me. And you can like transfer servers, but like that's still fucked. That is still fucked, you know? It basically makes Mastodon useless to me. I don't use Mastodon. Like I have an account, like I'm saying to you, I'm trying to get this across. I have an account for the same reason I have an account everywhere. I have an account because it's a business need as a business owner. Like, I know Webcomics Hub seems like a fucking joke thing, and it's totally valid that if you think that, but it is a more or less to me a business. I still file taxes, even though I only earn like $30 from it. And I still like, you know, like do like I still do like funding breakdowns and stuff, right? So like for me, it's my business. And like for example, one of the things I'm going to spend Patreon money on is Twitter Blue. I'm sorry, I unless people tell me like to not, unless people tell me to unequivocally not spend money on Twitter Blue, right? I will spend money on Twitter Blue because it gives me more views. It's a business need. Like, so I just make like the same reason why that's a business need is the same reason why I will like, you know, make accounts everywhere because it's a business need. Now, don't get me wrong. If my patrons, especially, and just my viewers tell me, hey, don't spend money on Twitter Blue, I think it's just that bad, which I think it is just that bad, by the way. But I'm looking at it from a business point. If they go like, I don't even think it's worth helping your business, I will be like, yeah, fair enough. You guys are right. Because I'm not very sold to this idea. It's like on the list of things I want to do, but it's just an idea of an explanation an explanation of like, this is what like I have to do for business reasons. And like, as a result of that, I just make a million fucking web applications. I have a co-host. Do any of you know what fucking co-host is? No. Yeah, that's totally true. I'm still doing research into Twitter Blue, so this is not like a guaranteed I'm spending your money on it. So don't worry. And like, if you just tell me not to, like, just say the words "don't," I won't. Don't care that much. But like, an example is like, this is Co-host. You guys know Co-host? Well, this is Co-host. It's a social media platform. It's just Tumblr, by the way. I have an account there. I've never posted anything. It's just old Twitter or Tumblr. Like, this is it might be worth 1 month at most. Yeah, pretty much. Twitter Blue might be worth at most 1 month, and I probably won't do that much for me. Like, just to contextually understand, like, the social media space right now, it's like I'm going everywhere because unlike the really big tubers, I can't afford to be like selective as to where I go. Unlike all the really big YouTubers, I have to be like everywhere because it's just the only way that like I could be early enough to capture the audience early enough. So it's one of those things they have to do. Let's see, what else are people asking me? Guys, any other questions? Because I'm still reading your questions. Aqua was just really nice to me. That was really nice. Any thoughts except for clenching about Mongi pulling Let's Play off Webtoon? Okay, like the Mongi Webtoon question thing. The Mongi Webtoon question thing is a question I really need to like tread around answering. Mongi, and I'm just gonna be open about this. Mongi is part of another story that I'm working on. Right? Mongi is named and specifically part of another story I'm working on. I just need to make sure I don't say the wrong words. But fundamentally, I'm just gonna say this. Mongi leaving Webtoon is like the most fucking obvious thing that was going to happen this year beyond like, it was more obvious than like fucking Uru-chan releasing another episode of Unordinary. Like it was more guaranteed to happen than anything. Mongi's manager is the former head of content of Webtoon who left under like complicated reasons in which he did not agree, in which him and Webtoon are not on good terms. So basically every time, and also him and people in Webtoon are not on good terms. So every time Mongi needs to negotiate with Webtoon, she basically drags this man. I'm not saying drag, like it's his job, but she basically takes this man to them. And basically a bunch of people at Webtoon who know him personally, basically see their former boss, essentially, come to them to tell them to do something that he knows that they would never do, or he knows that they probably don't want to do, with the intent of basically screwing them over with his insider knowledge. You know? So that was coming, right? Not to mention like, just a few things here and there that were like, that I can't really talk about right now. But yeah, that's not like a massive secret. Surviving in capitalism means compromises now and then. Not gonna hold it against anyone. Valid as fuck, dude. Like, holy shit. Valid as fuck. And that's pretty much the vibe right now from on my end. So I'm glad someone else is getting it. Yeah. Fundamentally, like, if you want to know what I should say, by the way, but the social media thing, just real quick addendum. If you want to know what my primary social media platforms are, they're on the website. I have a website. It's not like amazing or anything, but I have a website. If you guys don't know about it, that's totally valid. This is my website. My website is made up of like 2 bits. It's got, you can see a little blue thing on the left. That blue thing is my sidebar with all of my major social medias at the moment on it. So that's where they'll be. It's mobile friendly, so you can use it there. Centrally, it's just me and credits. And at the bottom, the page didn't load properly for some reason. Oh no. And at the bottom of the page, I would love the page to load properly, but I can't be bothered to fix it. Yeah, me too. At the bottom of the page, I have my business email. I have my press email. So if you have like tips you want to drop from me, or like, people who want to tell me things that like they can't really release anywhere else and they want to talk under anonymity, or you just have a newsletter that you think might be useful for me to have, my press email is right there. Hit me up on it. I will be happy. Send it to your friends. In fact, I'll put it in chat. My press email is probably the email I want people to have the most. Like, that's the one I want people to have the most. If you want it, if you have a tip, you have people you know that might have a tip, you have any of that shit, that's my press email. Fucking email me, dude. I read that email once every 2 days. So I will see your email inevitably. And I even have a just saying hi email if you want to just send me a nice message. I read that email once every month. So don't worry if I don't get to it. I'll see it eventually. But if in terms of that point, that's how I'm surviving. I have a website. webcomicshub.co.uk. Because I'm British, apparently. I mean, I am. I don't know why I'm saying apparently, like it's a secret. I am. Oh, Sola, one day when I buy webcomicshub.com, holy shit, I'll be so happy. I never got a chance to own that fucking website. The guy who owns it, I tried to buy it from him like 5 times now. He's just refused. He has refused to sell me his website. Oh my God. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my absolute mind. He's refused to sell me his website like 5 times now. I've tried using secret emails to email him to ask to purchase his website to see if he's just ignoring me. He's not. He's just not responding. Yeah, pretty much. That's what the Just Say Hi email is for, dude. Like, that's why you make one. You make one just for people to say hi. No real reason. Just because they want to. Like, sorry, I keep thinking about like the Just Say Hi email's existence. I made it as a meme and I just left it there. If you want to like get in direct contact with me at all times, all your things are there. Ooh, wow. Oh, Global Comics is something really fucking cool just now. Okay. That's cool. That's like the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. Okay, cool. Global Comics is stopping people from AI like scavenging things. And Global Comics is so basically Chris. I'm sure you're listening to this right now, Chris, because sometimes he's in the stream, and I just want him to know that I know that he's here. Anyway, he might not be though. But if Chris is listening to this, Chris, really good fucking job. So basically, Global Comics has implemented what's called the No Image AI meta tag. It's a tag that basically stops people from using your website as a source for image data for AI models anywhere, right? Essentially, it stops them from trawling the website and taking it. And he also talked about like the ethics of AI. He's like, they do not take down AI web comics, but they do demonetize them. And the reason they simply won't ever remove a comic if someone happens to disagree with its existence on the basis of how it was created without following process and procedure is the same reason they won't censor or remove comics that might happen to go against some people's personal beliefs. So, yeah. It's really nice. It's actually really nice. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm in that chat right now, the creators chat. God, the first thing Chris says when he talks about how he's not going to censor comics, the first thing somebody asks is, "What if I make a conservative comic?" Fuck off. Like, like holy shit. It's not like a fucking secret, but like Chris is like my favorite CEO in the webcomic space right now. It's not a secret. I want him to win. I want him to win the comic game. Like he's the nicest guy. He's a normal fucking person. You know, he's a well-balanced individual. He doesn't have a fucking crazy ego. He's the kind of person you want running an industry. Because at least he's not going to be a fucking literal nightmare person. So like, that's great. I might have upset the conservative guy. I hope he doesn't think I hate him. I mean, I do, but whatever. Anyway, no, like it's good. Really, if you wanna know my prediction, I think more of you should go on Global Comics. I think more of you should go on Global Comics. I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be the best place for you. I just think it's a useful place to go. TBH. Uh, my favorite statement in the world. There is no, sorry, I'm in the chat and I'm so distracted. I'm sorry, everybody. I know we're supposed to be streaming and talking to you, but just, I'm in the Global Comics chat and I just read, like, I said to somebody, nobody really bans your content unless it's hateful. He goes, there's no hate in my story. It just tends to offend progressive sensibilities. I don't know what to say to that. Why isn't Webtoon doing this? The year is ending and I'm mad. Wait, what? It's all just, sorry, it just, like, my brain had like a lag and it fucking like slammed into my head. Why the fuck? Why didn't they tweet this months ago? What the It's literally, okay, for context of how much work this is, I'm just gonna fucking take Chris's screenshot. Don't hate me, Chris. Anyway, for context of how much work this is the work. This is the work. Check this out. You see this line that says meta, name, robots, content, no image, AI. You see that line? See that line? That's it. That is it. That is all you had to do. That is all you had to do. Even if it doesn't fix the problem. The fact that you didn't do like the bare minimum, like fucking, like it's literally that highlighted line. That's all you needed to do. I'm not fucking with you. I'm not hiding anything. That's it. And they just haven't, whatever, fuck this. Why do I care? Why do I fucking care about anything? I'm going back to being a little shitty gremlin. Going back to my gremlin way, my goblin mode, dude. I'm going goblin mode. Fuck it. That's what I have to do today. Just going goblin mode. Oh my god. comments in creator profiles is the funniest fucking thing in the world. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's completely fucking useless. But I absolutely love that, like, in the face of every issue that they're facing this year, they thought that was the big announcement. Like, like, oh, guys, you guys don't understand. You guys don't fucking understand, all right? Like, listen to me, all right? As a creator, being able to fucking comment on creators' profiles is a big move. Like, I'm gonna go to Jessie Page Dawson's profile. Oh, she doesn't fucking post. Oh, shit. Jessie, post something, please. Where's your feed? Does nobody have a feed on my desktop? Wait, what? I'm on Webtoon desktop. Nobody has I was going to leave like a meme comment under, not meme comment under like a creator's feed, but nobody seems to have one. The fuck? Okay. All right, fuck me, I guess. No one has one. All right, cool. Fuck it. They told me that like I could comment on creator profiles on desktop. So I went to do it and it doesn't work because the comments don't load. What the what the fuck? What do I do in this? Whatever, man. Fuck this. I'm going back to my life. All right, cool. The year's ending. Woo! Last podcast of the year. Woo! Go to bed. Good night. Fuck. That just fucking, that exhausted me. That just literally beat me to death. I can't go on. I can't go on. Good night. Fucking bullshit. What? It just doesn't fucking work. It just doesn't work. Dude, I feel like I'm high. I'm high. I'm fucking high. I am smoking the perp. Like, holy shit. Like, some of these people I get, maybe they don't have anything. It's just, yeah, see you in 2023. Look forward to the next 3 videos that will end the year off. Look forward to me in Meat Space talking about comics before the end of the year. All right, goodbye, everybody. Bye. Also, go to